Okay, this video is about the Schlieffen Plan. As I've mentioned in previous videos, the Kaiser was worried about a war on two fronts, and he would later become worried about being encircled when he saw Britain as coming out of splendid isolation to join with, in his opinion, Britain and Russia. Now, a war on two fronts means you've got a war on each side, and if you were a military general or military planning, it's suicide. You're surrounded, and Germany cannot just change its place. It is stuck between France and Russia, which was the beauty, the aim behind the Franco-Russian alliance, which made Russia such a real good ally for the French to have. Now, the Kaiser asked Alfred von Schlieffen, who was his German army chief of staff, so the guy who's like basically behind the planning and everything, to come up with a solution to this. What can we do about this in the event of war? So, in 1905, Schlieffen presented what would become known as, Alfred von Schlieffen presented the Schlieffen Plan, and you can figure out why it's called that, I think. And the Schlieffen Plan basically said that in the event of war, 90% of the German army would go through Belgium, Holland and Luxembourg into France. So it wouldn't go just across the border, it wouldn't go through Alsace and Lorraine into France. It would like scythe around and almost in through the back door into France, where they wouldn't be expecting it. 90% of this army, of the German army, would do this. The other 10% would dig in on the Russian border and defend. It's a lot easier if you need less, you can have less men to be defensive in an army, so you can defend with a lot less men than you can attack. Okay, so 90% of the German army, the Great German Army, will go through the Netherlands into France, and the other 10% will dig in and defend in the event of a Russian attack. Now, Schlieffen calculated that because Russia was so big, so disorganized, it would take them 6 weeks to get ready for war. So he said, we've got to knock France out within 6 weeks, take them out of war. And if we can take Paris, beat France in 6 weeks, we can then go back across Germany and take the Russians on, or basically we can create such a good job of beating the French that Russia and maybe even Britain just won't fancy this. They won't want to get involved with the German army. Now, Schlieffen was getting on, and basically he was kicked in the head by a horse, believe it or not. And this speeds up his thoughts of retirement because he's no longer fit for military duty. And in 1906, he was replaced by Helmut von Moltke, who was not actually the Schlieffen's ideal successor, but he was like a golden boy to the Kaiser. And von Moltke slightly adapts the Schlieffen Plan, and he says that no longer will we go through Holland in the event of war. Germany will just cut through Belgium, you know. And the thinking behind that could be, well, why upset Holland? Don't need to. And also Holland has ports. Now, what you need to bear in mind with the Schlieffen Plan is if it's asked about as a cause of war, consider this actually gives Germany a solution to their problems of a war on two fronts and also being surrounded, as would later happen when Britain's involved. So what you've basically got is Germany has confidence in this plan. So when World War I actually did start and France got involved, Germany puts the Schlieffen Plan into action. So roughly 10% of the German army digs in on the border against the Russians. The other roughly 90%, 89 point something I believe it was, would go through Belgium into France, and that's that. Now, what hadn't been calculated, hadn't been taken into account, was that the Belgians would put up resistance, because Belgium's not a big country. Sorry, it's just not. And Germany hadn't expected Belgium to put up a fight. Belgium did. So the Belgians basically delayed the Germans. They destroyed crops to not allow them to live off the land. They also took up railroad and stuff to slow them down that way. And basically what you've got is the Belgians hold the Germans up. Okay, now What the Kaiser hadn't anticipated was that Britain would come in. And the reason Britain came into the war was when Belgium was invaded. I said this in the Ferdinand video. And the invasion of Belgium saw Britain come in to protect Belgium. Right? Now there are different reasons, and you know, like, think about it here, okay? Britain in 1839 had been one of a number of countries who'd signed the Treaty of London. The Treaty of London, which was also signed by France, which was also actually signed by Prussia, which went on to become part of Germany, said that if any country affected Belgium's neutrality, so Belgium being neutral, they will be protected by the countries who signed the Treaty of London, including Britain. So Britain's like presents this as, we're just honouring our treaty, we keep our word. The Kaiser said, I can't believe they're going to war over this scrap of paper, the Treaty of London. There is a British propaganda poster called The Scrap of Paper, which references this. So Britain came into the war. Also, you could look at this and say that Britain was honouring its agreement with France. The north coast of France had been threatened. Britain had made this agreement as part of the Agadir crisis. You could also look at it and say that Britain was protecting Britain. You know, Belgium falls, France falls, Germany's got a hell of a position to launch an attack on Britain from here. You know, you can swim, if you're very fit, from France to Britain. So was Britain honouring treaties and being, you know, like a really honourable country, or was Britain looking out for itself? Right? For anyone who's interested, what the Schlieffen Plan almost did work. It almost did succeed. They broke through into France, and you saw 6,000 reserve soldiers put into Paris taxis and taken up to the front lines, and they still had to pay part of the fare, not all of it, but part of the fare. At the end of this, the German army were forced to back off, to retreat, and the word was given for the back end of the army to start digging trenches. Okay, and the Russians had got ready quicker than they'd expected anyway, so you did have the war on two fronts. But the German army was told to dig trenches for them to retreat into, and this will lead to the prolonged trench war for 4 years that was World War I. So the Schlieffen Plan almost worked, but it failed in the end. Britain got involved. Was it due to honouring Treaty of London and naval agreement and a coastal agreement with France from Agadir, or was it Britain protecting Britain's own interests because of how close Belgium and the north coast of France would be as a launching point for a German attack on Britain? Thanks for watching. I hope it helps you with your GCSE revision, folks.